Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal Monica Quartermain's death has left the Quartermain family in an indescribable state of grief. For years, Monica had been the pillar of this family, not just a mother and loving wife, but the glue that held everyone together. Her strength, resilience, and boundless love were the foundation upon which the Quartermain legacy was built. Since Alan's death, Monica stepped into the role of the family's primary caregiver, the heart of the household. She managed not only the responsibilities of raising her children but also the vast Quartermain empire, always putting her family's needs before her own. Her death feels like the end of an era that had seen Monica sacrifice so much for those she loved. Now that she's gone, the family is left reeling, unsure of how to move forward without her. Jason Morgan, Monica's biological son, is the most devastated of them all. His entire life had been intertwined with his mother's. Despite Monica's flaws and the mistakes she made, especially in her decisions concerning him, Jason always felt the undeniable love she had for him. She had been the one constant in his tumultuous life, the one who loved him unconditionally despite the dangers that often surrounded him. Jason had always understood the sacrifices Monica made, how she put her own needs aside to ensure her family was cared for. She had made sacrifices not just for him, but for Drew as well, and for all her children, biological or not. However, the revelation that Drew was not just a son to her but also a child she had taken in out of a deep sense of compassion and sorrow shook Jason to his core. For years, Jason had believed that Drew was simply his brother, his equal in every sense of the word. But now, the truth had emerged, and it was a truth that Jason could hardly bear. Monica had hidden Drew's true origins for years, making it even harder for Jason to accept the full weight of her actions. Drew was not just her adopted son, he was the son of a killer person with a dangerous, criminal past that Monica had tried to erase, keeping Drew's real identity hidden from everyone, including her family. The discovery of Drew's parentage sent shockwaves through the family. Monica's well-intended lies, while born from a place of love and compassion, only added complexity and pain to an already broken family. Jason, as someone who had always valued the truth above all else, struggled to reconcile the person he thought he knew as his mother with the hidden woman who had kept such a dark secret from him. In the face of this, Jason's grief grew not just from losing his mother, but from the betrayal of learning how much she had shielded him from. He couldn't fathom why Monica had chosen to protect Drew from his past, or why she had kept this secret locked away for so long. For Jason, it felt like everything he had known about his family had been a lie. Tracy Quartermain, Jason's sister, was also deeply affected by Monica's death, though her grief was intertwined with more complicated emotions. The relationship between Tracy and Monica had never been simple. Over the years, they had fought and clashed over control of the Quartermain legacy, their differing ideas about family and business causing more rifts than they could ever have anticipated. The animosity between the two women was palpable at times, and even as they shared the same blood, their bond was often strained. Tracy had always fought for her place in the family, sometimes at the cost of her own relationship with Monica. But now, in the wake of Monica's passing, all of that seemed insignificant. Tracy found herself facing the harsh truth that, despite their disagreements, Monica had always been her mother, and her death had left an irreplaceable void in her heart. Tracy began to reflect on all the years she had spent in conflict with Monica, and how much of that had been driven by her own insecurities. As she stood by Jason's side, trying to help him cope with the loss, Tracy began to realize that, despite the brokenness of their relationship, the love and bond they had shared as a family still existed, even after Monica was gone. The death of their mother had forced Tracy to reevaluate her life and her relationship with both Monica and the rest of the Quartermain family. In this period of grief, Tracy became an unexpected source of support for Jason. The two of them, while dealing with their own emotions, found solace in each other's company. Together, they navigated the painful process of saying goodbye to the matriarch of their family, and the reality of a world without Monica's leadership and strength. As much as their family had been shattered by her passing, Tracy knew that it was up to her and Jason to keep the Quartermain legacy alive. It was now their responsibility to carry forward the traditions and values that Monica had fought so hard to maintain. But the task ahead was daunting. The Quartermain family had always been defined by the powerful presence of Monica, and now, without her, it seemed like everything was crumbling. Tracy understood that the family was not just mourning the loss of their matriarch but also struggling with the future of the empire she had built. What would become of the family business? Who would take over the leadership? These were questions that could only be answered by Tracy and Jason, and neither of them felt prepared for the enormous task ahead. Through all the confusion and grief, Tracy realized that the most important thing was to stick together as a family. Their mother had taught them the value of unity and love, and now, in her absence, it was up to them to embody those principles. As the days passed and the funeral approaches, Tracy found herself determined to honor Monica's memory by ensuring that the Quartermain legacy would live on, and that the family would remain as strong and united as possible. But there were more surprises in store. With Monica's death came the discovery of long-buried secrets that threatened to tear apart everything she had worked so hard to protect. As Tracy and Jason tried to rebuild their shattered lives, they would soon learn that Monica's past, her choices, and the truths she had kept hidden would have far-reaching consequences for everyone in the Quartermain family. The story of Monica's life, and the way she had shaped the family, was far from over. What had been hidden for so long was now coming to light, and with it, the future of the Quartermains would never be the same. Amidst the overwhelming grief and mourning of Monica Quartermain's death, a devastating truth surfaced, one that would send shockwaves through the entire Quartermain family. In the midst of sorting through Monica's estate, Tracy stumbled upon a file that had been hidden away for years. This file wasn't just a collection of mundane documents, it was a revelation of an explosive truth about Drew's pastone that had been concealed for decades. The file revealed that Drew was not, as everyone had believed, the biological son of Alan Quartermain. Instead, Drew was the son of a notorious hitman, a ruthless professional in the underworld whom Monica had helped when she was young. This information, locked away in Monica's secret files, shattered the facade of family unity that had been built around Drew's adoption. Monica, with her boundless compassion and heart full of empathy, had taken in Drew when he was just a child. She had offered him a home in the Quartermain family, raising him as her own and giving him the life of privilege and security that she had always wanted to provide for her children. However, Monica never told anyone the truth about Drew's origins. She kept it hidden, not just from her family, but from Drew himself, because she feared what would happen if the truth came out. Monica didn't want Drew to bear the burden of his father's violent and criminal past, and she didn't want her family to be dragged into a world of danger and scandal. More importantly, Monica knew that if Jason, her beloved son, discovered the truth, it would destroy him. The very foundation of their family, built on love and trust, would be shattered by the revelation that Drew wasn't truly his brother in the way he had always believed. Tracy's discovery of this file was nothing short of a bombshell. She felt a wave of shock and disbelief wash over her as she read through the documents, each page revealing more about the dark past that Monica had tried so hard to bury. Tracy had always respected her mother, despite their occasional disagreements, but she had never imagined that Monica had kept such a monumental secret from her family for so long. The realization that Drew's true origins were so far removed from the Quartermain family's idealized version of itself left Tracy feeling utterly betrayed. However, as the initial shock wore off, Tracy began to reflect on her mother's decision. At first, it felt like an unforgivable deception. Tracy couldn't understand why Monica had chosen to keep such an important truth from everyone, especially Jason. But as she thought more deeply about Monica's character, about the woman she had always known her mother to be, Tracy realized that Monica's actions weren't driven by malice or deceit. Instead, they had been driven by love for Drew, and for her family. Monica had chosen to raise Drew as her own, to protect him from the world and the painful legacy of his father, because she believed it was the right thing to do. Monica had made a conscious decision to shield her family from the chaos that Drew's origins could have unleashed, not because she wanted to deceive them, but because she didn't want to cause any more pain. She had given Drew a new identity, a fresh start, hoping that the love of the Quartermain family would be enough to wash away the darkness of his past. But the truth, as it always does, had a way of resurfacing, and with it came the inevitable consequences. Drew, though loved and accepted by the Quartermains, would never fully escape the shadows of his past. The ghosts of his father's violent life would continue to haunt him, no matter how much love he received from Monica and the rest of the family. As much as Drew had been given a privileged life in the Quartermain mansion, he would never be able to outrun the blood that ran through his veins. For Drew, this revelation was a painful blow to his identity. Though he had been raised with the Quartermains and had always considered them his family, the knowledge that his biological father was a criminal mastermind in the underworld cast a long shadow over his life. It would take time for Drew to process the truth, and he would undoubtedly struggle with feelings of shame and confusion. How could he reconcile the life he had been given with the legacy of violence and crime his biological father had left behind? How could he face Jason, the brother he had come to love, knowing that their bond was built on a lie? As for Jason, the pain of this revelation would cut deeper than anyone could imagine. Jason had always seen Drew as his brother, someone he could count on, someone with whom he shared not just a bond of family, but a bond of experience. They had been through so much together, and Jason had trusted Drew implicitly. Now, that trust would be tested like never before. The idea that Drew's past was so radically different from what Jason had believed was hard for him to process. Jason had always been driven by a strong sense of justice and truth. And the revelation that his familiar's mother especially had concealed such a crucial part of Drew's identity was a betrayal that Jason couldn't easily forgive. But even as Jason grappled with his anger and betrayal, there was a part of him that understood Monica's motives. He knew how deeply she loved Drew, how fiercely she had protected him. Monica had always been someone who put the needs of others ahead of her own, and in this case, she had chosen to protect Drew from the harsh reality of his past, even at the cost of her own integrity. Jason couldn't help but admire his mother's strength, even as he wrestled with the truth she had kept hidden for so long. In the end, Tracy's discovery of Drew's true origins not only changed the way the Quartermain family saw Drew, but it also forced them to confront their own ideals about family, loyalty, and the lengths they would go to protect the ones they loved. As Drew began to face the reality of his past, the entire family would have to grapple with the consequences of Monica's actions. And while it was clear that Drew would never be able to outrun his past, he would also never be abandoned by the family that had raised him. Love, after all, was the one thing that could transcend even the darkest of pasts. When Jason learned the truth about Drew's origins, it felt as though his entire world had collapsed. The revelation hit him with the force of a wrecking ball, shattering every sense of certainty he had about his family, his identity, and the bonds he thought were unbreakable. For years, he had considered Drew not just a brother by blood, but a brother in every sense of the word. They had shared countless moments together as part of a family that, despite its dysfunction, had always been rooted in love and loyalty. But now, the truth was out. Drew wasn't his brother in the way Jason had always believed. Drew's biological father was a professional hitman, a dangerous man entrenched in the world of crime, someone Jason could never have imagined being connected to the family he had come to cherish. The truth was a slap in the face, a revelation so brutal that Jason struggled to make sense of it. Monica, the woman who had raised him with such devotion, had kept this secret from him for all these years. Jason couldn't understand why Monica had chosen to hide such an important truth. Why had she concealed Drew's past from him, from the entire family? Why had she decided to shield Drew from the painful reality of his origins, even at the cost of their family's trust? Monica, who had always been open and honest with Jason, the woman who had never shied away from difficult conversations, had kept him in the dark about something so fundamental. The betrayal hit hard, not just because of the secret itself, but because of the person who had kept it hidden, one person Jason had always trusted completely. For Jason, the pain was not just from discovering Drew's true parentage, but from the sense of betrayal by his own mother. He had given Monica his unquestioning trust, knowing she would always be there to protect him, to tell him the truth, no matter how difficult it might be. And yet, here she had been, hiding a truth so monumental, so life-altering. The woman who had always guided him, who had shown him how to navigate the complicated world they lived in, had been hiding something of this magnitude. It was more than just a secret. It was a lie by omission, one that Jason couldn't simply overlook. The tension between Jason and Drew grew as the truth came to light. Jason was torn between his love for Drew, who had been his brother in every meaningful sense, and the reality that Drew's past could never be erased. Despite all the years they had shared together, despite the bond they had formed through their shared experiences, Jason now had to grapple with the knowledge that Drew wasn't just a Quartermain by name. He had a darker, more dangerous history that none of them had ever been prepared for. Jason couldn't easily accept this new reality. How could he reconcile the brother he had known, the man he had trusted, with the truth of his biological roots? For Jason, forgiveness didn't come easily. He had always believed that family was built on trust, and now that trust had been fractured beyond repair. His world had been built on a lie, and he didn't know how to move forward from that. Every memory, every moment he had shared with Drew seemed tainted now, as if the entire foundation of their relationship had been built on false pretenses. The anger he felt was palpable, and it was directed not just at Drew, but at Monica as well. How could she have done this to him? How could she have made such a crucial decision without consulting him, without giving him a chance to understand the truth? Tracy, always the practical one, saw Jason's pain and tried to counsel him through it. She urged him to face the truth head-on, to stop running from it, and process the reality of the situation. But for Jason, the wound was too deep. The truth was too painful to accept so easily. Tracy, with her logical approach, may have believed that Jason could come to terms with it over time, but she didn't understand the emotional toll it had taken on him. How could she? Tracy hadn't been as close to Monica as Jason had, nor had she shared the same kind of bond with Drew. Jason couldn't let go of the feeling of betrayal. The idea that his mother had lied to him about something so fundamental to his family's identity was too much to bear. He was angry, hurt, and disillusioned, and it was taking everything within him to not lash out at the people he loved. Tracy tried to remind him that Monica's intentions had been driven by love for Drew, that she had kept the secret because she had wanted to protect him, but Jason couldn't see it that way. To him, it wasn't just about protecting Drew, it was about the deception that had been hidden from him, the secret that had undermined everything he believed about family. The entire Quartermain family now found itself grappling with the fallout from this revelation. It wasn't just about the family's legacy or the inheritance that Monica had left behind. The deeper issue was the emotional rift that had opened up between them all. What had once been a family bound by love and loyalty now seemed fractured by secrets and lies. The love that had always defined the Quartermains was now overshadowed by this devastating truth. And no one, not even Jason or Tracy, knew how to fix it. As the weeks went on, it became increasingly clear that the family could not return to the way things had been before. Monica's death had left a hole in their lives, but it was the secrets she had kept hidden, particularly the truth about Drew's origins, that would prove to be the most difficult to overcome. Tracy and Jason, who had grown closer in their shared grief, now had to face the difficult task of trying to hold the family together despite the painful revelations. One of the most pressing questions that loomed over the Quartermain family was whether they could move forward from the pain of the past and rebuild the relationships that had been shattered. Would Jason and Drew ever be able to reconcile? Could Tracy, ever the peacemaker, help mend the rift between them? And most importantly, could the Quartermains, once a symbol of unity and strength, find a way to heal in the wake of the secrets that had been exposed? The future of the Quartermain family was uncertain. The legacy of Monica, once so firmly rooted in love and loyalty, now seemed fragile. The love they had once shared had been tested by betrayal, and whether that love would survive the turmoil remained to be seen. Jason and Tracy, though united in their grief, were now faced with the impossible task of not only dealing with their mother's death but also with the unraveling of everything they had believed about their family. Would the Quartermains rise from the ashes of their broken past, or would they be forever torn apart by the shadows of their own secrets? Only time would tell, but the road to healing would not be an easy one. Despite the immense grief that had consumed the Quartermain family, life had to continue. The world outside their mourning walls did not pause for them, and the weight of their loss, although profound, was not something that could stop the hands of time. Each member of the Quartermain family found themselves at a crossroads, trying to navigate through a new reality that seemed as uncertain as it was painful. Monica's death had irrevocably altered the foundation upon which the family was built, and the repercussions of her passing were only just beginning to unfold. The family was no longer the tightly knit unit it once had been. They had lost their matriarch, the woman who had held them all together, and now, with her absence, they had to face not just their grief, but the uncharted waters of rebuilding what they had once taken for granted. Monica's legacy, while powerful and influential, was also now overshadowed by the secrets she had kept hidden. Her death had unearthed things that no one could have anticipated, truths that would forever alter the perception of the family, especially Drew's true origins. While some within the family would attempt to honor her memory by holding on to the ideals she had worked so hard to instill, others would find themselves questioning everything they had once believed about their family and its legacy. What would Monica's legacy ultimately become? Would it be remembered as a beacon of love, strength, and resilience for future generations, or would it serve as a stark reminder of betrayal, deceit, and the lengths to which some were willing to go to protect their loved ones, even at the cost of their own integrity? For Jason, this question weighed heavily on his heart. As the son who had once held the highest regard for his mother, he now struggled to reconcile the woman he had known with the woman revealed by the secrets she had kept. The truth about Drew's origins had shaken him to his core, and it felt as though the very foundation of his identity had been pulled out from under him. He had always believed in the family's power to endure, to overcome, and to stay united in the face of adversity. But now, with so many truths laid bare, Jason was forced to confront the possibility that the Quartermain legacy might not be as unbreakable as he had once thought. The family dynamic was changing in ways no one could have predicted. Tracy, though she had grown closer to Jason during their shared grief, was finding herself struggling with a new, uncomfortable reality. Her relationship with Monica had always been complicated, fraught with tension, rivalry, and unspoken resentments. But despite their differences, Tracy knew the value of family, and she understood the importance of preserving that bond. Now, however, the lines between loyalty and betrayal were becoming more blurred, and Tracy found herself questioning whether the family she had always known could ever truly be the same again. The rift between Drew and Jason grew deeper with each passing day. Jason, still reeling from the revelation of Drew's true parentage, couldn't help but feel betrayed by him. Even though Drew had been raised as his brother, even though they had shared years of camaraderie, trust, and even love, the truth of Drew's origins felt like a betrayal to Jason that cut deeper than any other wound he had experienced. The sense of familial unity that had once defined the Quartermains was now fractured, and the pain from this fracture seemed to be beyond repair. As weeks passed, the realization settled in: the Quartermain family could not simply move on from their losses. The grief was too great, the secrets too deep, and the fractures too significant. The legacy Monica had worked so hard to build would not simply fade away, it would continue to haunt them, reminding them of everything they had lost, and everything they had kept hidden. For Jason, Tracy, Drew, and the rest of the family, the question of whether they could rebuild what they had lost was no longer just a question of emotional recovery, it was a question of survival. Could they survive the weight of their history? Could they survive the loss of the woman who had always been their guiding force, their mother, their matriarch? Would they rise above the secrets, the lies, and the betrayals that now hung over them like a dark cloud? Or would the family be torn apart by the very things that had kept them together for so long? The love they shared, the power they wielded, and the legacy they had fought so hard to protect. As the days turned into weeks, the Quartermains found themselves at a crossroads. The family they had once been united, strong, and invincible was no more. The road ahead was unclear, and each member of the family had to decide for themselves how they would move forward. Some, like Tracy, would try to honor Monica's legacy by rebuilding the family, trying to keep things as intact as possible. Others, like Jason, would struggle to forgive, to move beyond the hurt and the lies, and find a way to reclaim the love and trust that had once defined their family. But the past was not something easily overcome. The secrets that had been buried for so long would continue to surface, and with them, the challenges would only grow more complex. Drew, for his part, would have to confront his own past, man he was, the family he came from, and the truth of who he was to the Quartermains. Would he be able to accept the family that had taken him in and raised him as one of their own? Or would the weight of his true origins push him away? Monica's death had irrevocably altered the landscape of the Quartermain family, but whether or not they would come out the other side stronger or broken remained to be seen. Their journey had just begun, and the battles ahead would be fierce, personal, and ultimately transformative. The legacy of Monica Quartermain, though steeped in love and sacrifice, was now intertwined with the complex web of family secrets, lies, and betrayals. And as the Quartermains faced the challenges ahead, they would have to decide whether to let their past define them or whether they could find a way to forge a new future from the ashes of the old. In the weeks and months to come, the family would have to face their deepest fears, confront their darkest truths, and ultimately decide whether they could rise from the wreckage of their past, or whether they would be consumed by the secrets that had once bound them together. Whatever the outcome, the Quartermain family would never be the same again, and the legacy of Monica, whether as a beacon of hope or a cautionary tale, would live on forever, changing the family that had once seemed unshakable.